Okay, so let's say we're going to do Barrel of Monkeys. That's the example one. We've done it in class. You'll need to understand this to do your first one. Here I am inside of my Xylab. There's my Barrel of Monkeys. I'm going to open that up and start getting ready. Oops, double click on that. Come on. Here it comes and opened up. Very first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to read through this thing several times to understand exactly what's going on. Before I cut any code, I need to understand just what's happening. And then after I do that, I'm probably going to bring up some milestones. I've already gone and done that ahead of time. That's part of programming. You want to show milestones. So I've come up with, oh, how many did I finally end up with? 10 different milestones. Here they are right here. 1 through 6, and then 7 through 10. You want the milestones to break the project down into meaningful little 10-minute chunks so that you can track your progress as you go. So we've got these and we'll be checking them off as we go. Okay, milestone number 1, read the project instructions. We already talked about that. Don't just read through it once. Read through it multiple times so that you understand there might be little things in there, such as, hey, the dynamic array of monkeys must begin with a capacity of 2. When you grow it, you've got to double the capacity. So it starts with 2 and then grows to 4 and 8 and 16. If you miss that and you start it with a capacity of 3, the unit testing is going to fail. So you've got to understand everything that's in here. So take a moment and do that. I will assume that you've done that. So then we'll check that milestone off and we'll go to milestone number 2, pull files from the Xylab to the IDE. So let's bring up our IDE, Visual Studio for my case. And I want to create an empty project. So let's see, here we go, empty project. Double click on that. Where should I put it? I make sure it's right where I want to. Wherever I set this thing up, there's my CS2420. There's my projects. I'm going to call this thing Barrel of Monkeys. And that will bring up everything. It should make a completely empty project at this point. Actually, before I even try to pull the stuff from the Xylab, I'm going to make sure that I can make a single file, main, new item, CPP file, main.cpp, and I'm going to put just enough in here to do hello world because that's one of my milestones. And believe me, that's an important one to do. If you can't do this part, then don't go any further because there's something else really wrong. So I need to do an IO stream like I, oops, spell it right, like I do for every console app, # using namespace std int main cout hello, good enough, and I'm going to click the local debugger. That should save it, compile it, see what I've got. Oop, they were build errors, so don't run it. So what's it wrong? What doesn't it like? Expected a name. Oh, it's not # using. What did I do? I did something wrong up there. I'll get rid of the #, just go back to using namespace, fix that bug, and this time it should build. And it should build and run. So there it goes. It runs. Hello, it went right away. Oh, so yeah, I want to see that stand up there. I could put a cn.get or just put a breakpoint on the very last curly brace. Now when I run it, it should stay up there. There's my hello. If I alt tab, I should get back over to the hello. It's there. When I hit continue, it should go away. Good. Notice that I did have an error. I said # using instead of just using, and I fixed it. That's one reason I want to compile often. I don't ever want to come up with 300 errors to fix. I want just a few each time around. Okay, so I did that part. So now I'm going to go back. My first milestone was go over to Xylab and pull everything out. So what files does he have? He does have a main.cpp. I'm going to Control A, make sure I click inside here, and then Control A, then Control C to put that in my paste buffer. And then I'll tab back over to here, and I'm probably going to replace everything in here. So there's my Control A, delete, and then Control V should paste everything in, just like we had before. There's my monkey. We're not done yet, so I'll tab back over to here. Main.cpp was the first one. I'm going to grab barrel.h, Control A, Control C, Alt Tab to go back. It's the source. This was actually was an H file, so that's going to be a header file. Add. Actually, I've now forgotten what was it. It was barrel.h. Header file. Right click. Add. New item. Make sure it's an H file. barrel.h. And I am going to get rid of everything that's out there and paste with a Control V, paste everything back in. Good, there's my barrel. Here comes my monkey.h, Control A, Control C, header file, right click, add, new item, header file, monkey. M-O-N-K-E-Y. I don't have to put the .h as long as I'm sure I've selected it as a .h file. He'll put the .h in for me. He wrote some code that I don't want, so I get rid of that. And then Control V, stick that back in. There's that one. Alt Tab gets me back. There's my monkey. There's observer.h. Control A, Control C, tab over, header file. Oops. Header file, right click, add, new item, header file, observer. Again, I'm going to get rid of that line right there and Control V, put that in. Alt tab back. Next one is monkey.cpp, which is an empty file. That's easy to put in. I'll go down to my source. I'll right click and I'll say add a new item. It's going to be a CPP file, and this one's called monkey. There was nothing in there. I'm going to have to write that myself. And then any more files? There's one more called barrel. He's also an empty file. So I'll go back over to here. I'm going to add in a new item, barrel. Barrel.cpp. Great. Now, actually, if I go to my milestones, I finished milestone 2. So we're in pretty good shape right now. However, if I try to build this, build solution, it's going to come up with some errors. Not a whole lot, but errors still. In fact, this is my output window. He'll tell me that there are errors. If I go back to my error list, actually that's what it was. We're showing my error list. It says I've got 7 errors, 0 warnings. These are all linker errors because it says LNK and it's saying, hey, your H file promised me a monkey that was going to be a constructor, default constructor, didn't take anything. And when I linked, I didn't find it, but I needed it. That's all going to come from main. Main is the guy that's right there. I created a monkey. Let me make that a little bit bigger. Excuse me. I created a barrel. I called it B1, used the default constructor, but there was no default constructor because barrel.cpp is empty. Even though barrel.h said, yes, there will be one of these, it wasn't yet made. We could go ahead and start making it, but I like to do one extra thing first. Let's go back to main and comment out everything of business that gets done there. Don't delete it because we'll need it back later. Here I can just comment it out by clicking that button. And now I'm going to go back and build it again. Build solution. And he says that it worked. Great. In fact, if I go look at my error list, 0 errors, 0 warnings. Good. So I think I am now done with my first 3 milestones. I've read the stuff. I've pulled the files over. I had done our hello world. I could do another hello world right here if I wanted to. Let's just do that. Cout. Hello. Doesn't have to be hello world. It probably shouldn't just be hell. And I'm going to put a breakpoint on the very last line so it doesn't go away. I'm going to run that. It should compile. It should give me a hello in the console. You might think that there's no reason to have to do that, but believe me, it will save you time. If that doesn't work, nothing else is going to work. So great, that works. I probably will just delete that out of there and I'll say, okay, I'm ready for milestone number 4. Implement the simplest class. Why the simplest class? Because it's easiest. There's not a whole lot to implement in Monkey. Now again, Monkey's got a constructor, a default constructor. He does have a member variable called wait, and he does have this private variable called observe, which is a type observer, and that just has to be there for unit test. The observer has been written for you. Everything is in line inside there. I use this to make sure that when you allocate a monkey, you should delete it properly. So that's really just there. Has to be there. You don't have to do anything else other than put it in the H file. And since the H file was given to you, we're done with that. But we do have to create this. So I could go over here to monkey.cpp and add all the stuff in. But now in 2420, if the compiler will do it for you, which this one will, I'll right click and I'll click on the quick actions. Or if ever you see a light bulb, just click on the light bulb. And I'm going to say, yeah, create that definition of monkey.cpp, please. He'll go out to monkey.cpp and he won't write it for you, but at least put the basic stuff out there. In fact, if I go and look at the top, he even included monkey.h for me. Normally you'd have to remember how to do that, and I'm assuming that you would know how to do that. But here, I'm going to go out and do exactly what is required for a constructor. His job is to put all of the data members into a valid state. There's only one data member here called wait. Wait is equal to 0 because this is a null monkey. I guess that's not, you won't find too many monkeys with 0 weight, but I don't know what else to put in there. And at least that's better than garbage. And then when I go back over to monkey.h, notice nothing else has got green squiggles on it. And if I go back to monkey.cpp, if I go to build, I believe there's a way to compile just that one file. And he should go down there and compile it. And when he's done, build started. He won't try to link the whole project, but he says, yep, it worked. Up to date. If I look at my error list, it should give me 0 errors, 0 warnings. Great, monkey's done. So there's another step on my milestone. The next one down is I'm going to implement Barrel as a static array. Well, the reason I'm going to do that is because it's simpler than a dynamic array. So I'm going to have to change the H file just a little bit. So I probably will uncomment out that one. So now I've got a thing called max monkeys. And inside of this one here, I no longer really need a copy constructor or a deconstructor or an assignment. That's all part of the rule of threes needed when you have a dynamic array. So I'm just going to comment those out for now. We'll put them back in. I've got another milestone down the road, but we're going to make it run simply first. I probably will need to change this one. So I'm just going to double that up, comment out the first one. Now, instead of saying that monkey is going to be a pointer to data, he's going to be a static array of size max monkeys. Used and capacity, don't need a whole lot there. But this is going to make everything else a little bit easier. So now I'm going to go down and I'm going to start implementing. Anything that's got a green squiggle in Visual Studio says, I don't know about that one yet. You have declared it, but you haven't yet defined it. So I will click on this and I'll say, yeah, would you make one for me? And this is called a peek window. It really is barrel.cpp. You could bring up just barrel.cpp or X that out and go to barrel. But the nice thing about this is you get to see everything. So here's some of my data stuff. Like I need to update used and capacity. So I'm just going to come down here and say, hey, used is equal to 0 because there's nothing in the barrel right yet. Capacity is equal to, I think I had, yeah, max monkeys. Max monkeys looks good to me. So at that point, I implemented that one. Let's go down and see, I've got insert. Let's do the easiest ones first. Hey, number of monkeys. How many monkeys do you have in the barrel? I'm going to implement this one. That's really easy. I've got this thing called used, so I'm just going to return used. That's all that you need to do for that one. Uh, print, that's probably a pretty easy one to do. Quick window, quick things. I'm going to implement that. Here, I'm just going to go out there and print the weight of each monkey. So I'll make a little for loop. In Visual Studio, if I type in for and then tab, he will write the for loop for me. I'm going to type in int for that part there. And how many monkeys do I want to print? Whatever used says. So for I is equal to 0, I less than used, I'm going to see out. This is going to be my array, which I think is data, and which monkey sub I dot weight. And then I also want to probably add to the end of that a comma and maybe a space. And when I'm done going through the whole loop, I'm going to have to just do another cout, an endl. Now he gave me a little red squiggle there under the couts and the endl because I have not yet. Let me bring up just barrel.cpp. He just says he wants to include barrel.h. If I'm going to use cout, I also need to include iostream. And then I better also have the using namespace std inside there. Oops, std. I have a rule of thumb that always works well for me. Always include your system include files, the ones with the angle brackets, before you include any of your own local ones, the ones with the quotes. You don't have to, but I've run into some weird bugs from time to time when I don't do that. So that's my rule of thumb. So I got print done. Great. Let's go out to barrel.h. What other squigglies do we have? Oh, let's just do the insert. Here's probably the next easiest one. There's my light bulb. Hey, insert him in. So what do we have here? We have an array, and someone is passing me in a reference to a new monkey, and I want to just stick him in my array. Well, let's not worry about array overflow at this point. We will in just a moment. But the main stuff here, we're just going to say, there's my array. And what's the next element? Next unused element, that's going to be used, because when the array is empty, used will be 0, and I want this to go into data sub used. That thing there is going to be assigned new monkey. Great. And then when we're done with that, we better bump up used. So used is equal to used plus plus. That's perfect. However, you're old enough now to realize that, I could have, actually, that's not even correct. I should have said used is equal to used plus 1. Plus 1. 1, come on. There it goes. That works, but probably a better way to do it is use the post increment on that line. Most all programmers using C or C++ will do it that way. Get used to it. If that really bothers you, go back to do it in 2 lines, but by now it's time to start using that. But now here's a problem. What happens? Max monkeys is 10. What if I have 10 monkeys? So used will be equal to 10 now because 0 through 9 are valid. What if I try to add this? Well, it will go into data sub 10, which is actually the 11th element, and he will write past the end of the array, and we have corrupted data. How do we handle that? Well, we could throw an exception. An exception is generally something that you expect someone above you to catch and handle. If there's really no way to handle this, there's a better way to do it, and that's using an assert. So it's time to learn about asserts. I'm going to click on this, and let's just go right to the barrel. I need to include another library, and it's C assert, which means it came all the way over from C. We've been using these things for years. But once you include that, in here you can just say assert, and then something that will return either a bool. It has to evaluate to a boolean, either true or false. If it evaluates to true, everything is good. If it evaluates, I might be saying that wrong. Let's see. What I want to do here, I want to say assert that used is less than max monkeys. Max monkeys. If used is less than max monkeys, yeah, I was right. This will evaluate to true, and assert does nothing. However, if assert is equal to or greater than max monkeys, this will evaluate, this part right here, evaluates defaults, and assert will basically crash your program right then and there. And when you're actually debugging your code, that's what you want. You want to have it crash as soon as possible. So that's how we'll handle a bad case. We'll see how that happens. We'll watch it happen. Let's go back to barrel.h. Insert's done. How about remove one? And he returns a bool. Well, I'll go to my quick actions. I will put him in. Uh, what I want to do here is I want to go out through all of the monkeys that are currently in the barrel and see if I got one that looks like this. Probably shouldn't have said new monkey. I probably should have said something like target or target monkey, but okay, we'll call it new monkey. If I find it, I want to delete that one. So I'm going to have a for loop, and it's going to be for int I is equal to 0, I is less than. I could say max monkeys, but that's not quite right. It should be used because that's the valid monkeys that are in my list right now. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say, hey, if data sub I dot weight is equal to new monkey dot weight. So I'm just saying, is the monkey that you want me to remove, is this the one? If that is, I want to remove this. Well, how do we remove it? Well, we could delete that guy and take every monkey above him with a higher index and slide them down. That would work, but a kind of a cheaper way, since the order of monkeys in this array doesn't seem to be important to us. Why don't I just take the last monkey in the list, in the array, copy him over this monkey, and then just delete, decrement used by one. That's going to work perfectly. So that's going to say, okay, this guy right here, data sub I, this monkey's weight, I want it to be equal to the last monkey's weight, last on the list. Data sub I, nope, not I, data sub used minus 1. Oop, dot weight. Actually, I don't even have to do that. I could probably just use, as this thing got a little bit fancier, I could just use the built-in assignment and just say, yeah, take the last guy in the list and copy him over the first guy. That should work. We will never even get here with an empty list. If the list is empty, used will be equal to 0, and we'll say for I is equal to 0, 0 less than 0, that's false. We'll never go into this at all. So that should work. But now I need to decrement used. Used is equal to used minus 1. And that would work. But again, that's really not the way you'd see it out here. What you would see is you would do a decrement on this thing up here. But you don't want to decrement it. You don't want to do a pre-decrement. You want to do a post-decrement. Well, that's going to look too weird. So what I'm going to do is I'll just keep that in there. There is a way you could use pre and post decrements on this type of thing, but I think I'll leave it just like that. Oh, but then I found a guy, and this is return 1, just remove 1. So at this point here, I found one, I removed it, I'm going to return true. If I make it all the way through my list and get down to this line right here, that means that I never found one. I never hit the return in line 27, never found a monkey, so I will return a false. Great. In fact, at this point, I've written enough. I'm going to go back to build and just say compile. Well, is he going to let me compile? I think I have to go actually to the barrel.cpp, and then I can say build, compile, and he'll build just that file. He shouldn't have any troubles. Great. Error list is going to show me 0 errors, 0 warnings. Great. I'll go back to my H file. What's left? I now have to remove all. Okay. Copy him in. I'll probably make this big. The remove all should be very much like the remove one, but instead of returning at this point, I'm going to keep on looking for new ones to get rid of. So I'm going to just copy this part, Control C, put them down in here, Control V. Now this guy also returns an integer, and that's going to be the number of monkeys that he deleted. So I'm going to make another integer, int num deleted. I'll set that equal to 0. I'm going to start going through my list. If I found the guy, then I want to go out there and say, okay, take the last guy in the list and plop him over this guy and bump down my used by 1. And instead of saying return true, I'm going to say num deleted plus plus. Increment that thing. And then down at the very end, I'm going to have to say return num deleted. This will have one problem. If you really think about it, there could be some problems here where when you delete your first guy and you take the last guy in the list and copy it over yourself, as soon as you do that, there could be a problem. What if the last guy in the list is a guy that you want to delete as well? And then at the end of this list, you're going to increment I, you're going to go right past that guy. Well, that's going to create some problems. So there is one extra thing you probably want to do inside there. And this is going to look a little bit like a kludge, but I think it's going to work. I'm going to say, after I've copied the last guy in the list on top of the current guy in there, I'm going to say, hey, if my data sub I dot weight is equal to my new monkey dot weight, oops, WEI dot weight. If that's the case, and I'll probably should end up putting a extra little comment on this one. I'm going to say I minus minus. And what will happen there, as soon as we then hit the end of the loop, we're going to increment it right back, so the data will be the same. So I will find this new monkey that's got the right weight. But I think that's correct. So at this point here, we should have created everything as a static array. So I'm just going to say build solution. Everything should be working right at this point. So let's go back to main and start putting some stuff in. I should be able to create a barrel. Here's where I'm going to put 11 monkeys into the barrel. I'm going to print the barrel. I'm going to remove all of the monkeys with a weight of 86, and then I'm going to do a print them again. Now there should be a problem here because I've got 11 monkeys in this barrel. The barrel's got a maximum capacity of 10, so let's see what happens. We should hit that assert. As soon as this happens, it should crash on us, and bam. We got that nasty thing that pops up. So I'm going to, it says press retry to debug the application. I'll press that and it comes right up to there. There's my assert failed because use is already equal to 10. Great. We're good at that point. So how do we fix this? Well, for now, eventually we're going to change our array to be a dynamic array. For now, I'll just put it back to 10 and I'm going to say rerun this at 10. He's rebuilding, and boom, we got down to there. What do we get? Oh, we didn't delete anything because there was no, what did I tell him to delete? 86. Let's have him delete 38 because there's at least two 38s in there. So I'm going to change that to a 38. And I'm going to rerun that. This should allow us to see, hey, two of those monkeys have been removed on the second time we print it. Tab, look at both 38s are gone. Things look good. It's compiling. We could single step through everything at this point and really check everything, but I think we're pretty much there. We went through the hardest one. So now if I go back to my milestones, that's going to finish up through 6. Now I want to go back and convert my static array to a dynamic array. But take a break at this point. Go eat a Snickers bar, do something good. You've got most of it done. 7's going to be a big one, but not a huge one. In 7, we're going to go back and say, okay, I want this array to be a dynamic array, not a static array. Go back to monkey, make him a pointer to a data, get rid of that static array. I still use my used, my capacity, max monkeys, don't need that anymore. But I'm going to need a few other things. First of all, let's go back over. F12 will get me there. This is going to have to change a bit. He's now a dynamic array, so I need to say data is equal to new monkeys. Yep, monkey sub. And how big was this thing supposed to be at the start? He was going to be initial monkeys. There's that guy. Use is still going to be 0, and the capacity is going to have to be initial monkeys. Good, I've got him done. But soon as you put in that keyword new, bells should start ringing in your brain thinking, okay, if I newed some monkeys here, or at least an array of monkeys, I need to take care of deleting that data. Otherwise, I'll have a memory leak, and that's bad. So that means I do have to go down, and I must have a destructor. So I'm going to go out there and say quick actions, make me one of those. He doesn't have to do a whole lot. All he really has to do is delete that array. So there's my delete. And since it was an array, I need to tell him it's an array, and I called it data. So right there at line 9 is where I newed up data, and at line 16 is where I deleted data. And don't forget to put the open and close brackets there. Otherwise, the compiler will not know that you're trying to delete an entire array of monkey. Otherwise, he'll think it's just a pointer to a monkey. He'll delete the first one in the list and leak the others. So we've done that. But now, bells won't be going off quite as strongly, but they should be. Because in 1410, close to the end, we talked about the rule of 3. The rule of 3 says if you ever need to have a destructor, a copy constructor, or an assignment operator, you need to have all 3. You really do. This project will work, I got to tell you, without implementing, well, this one might not, but your homework one will work without implementing all of those 3. You just need the destructor. However, there will come times in your junior, especially in your senior year, when sometimes your projects just aren't going to work and you can't understand why. It's the rule of 3. If you forget that, it will come back and bite you. Because if you don't write your own copy constructor or assignment operator, he'll write one for you if he needs one, but it probably won't be doing what you need it to do. Because if you need a destructor, that means there is going to be something, some pointer out there, and he will only do a shallow copy. He'll make the new guy point to the exact same data instead of a copy of that data. So knowing that, let's go out. Let's write the easiest one first. That's going to be our copy constructor. Here's this one here. I'm going to wait till he pops up. There's the light bulb. We'll click on the light bulb. I'll say, write me one of those. What a copy constructor does, let's just go to the whole thing. A copy constructor says he's just like a regular default constructor, but he says, make it look like this original guy. Okay, well, I'll copy the original stuff, and we'll just change him a little bit. So how big does it, it's not going to be initial monkeys anymore. It's going to be how big the capacity is of the original guy. So, okay, I'll say original dot capacity. Great. That's how big the original guy currently is. And that's how big that'll be. Used is going to be, hey, how big is my current guy? So that's my original one dot used. What's the capacity of my new one? It's the same as the capacity of the original one. Capacity. And then I got one last step. I have to copy all of the data from the original barrel into this new barrel. So I'll make a little for loop. For int I is equal to 0, I is less than used. And here it's just going to say, hey, data sub I gets assigned original dot data sub I. Great, there is our copy constructor. So we've only got one other one that's going to be a little tricky to figure out, and that is going to be my assignment operator. This one, you might actually want to go out there and look at the boilerplate that you did in 1410, or look on the internet. There's a bunch of boilerplates for this. We'll talk through it, but most people have problems remembering this one. So I go back to this guy here. There's the last guy I want to get put in there. This one, there is my operator equals, and I'm going to, there's the light bulb. I'll click on the light bulb, copy him in, please. I'll probably just go over to this one. He only wrote the bare minimum and he didn't actually put any code in there. So if you go back to the boilerplate, the first thing the boilerplate cautions against a self-assignment where you say, assign myself back to me. When you've done that, you basically say, I already am me. I don't need to do anything. So boilerplate will show you a little line that says something like this. Hey, if this, which is a pointer to my current object, is not equal to the address of original, then go ahead and do all this stuff. If this happens to be equal to the address of original, then someone's doing a self-assign and I want to skip all this stuff in here. And then down at the end of this thing, notice he's supposed to return a reference to a barrel. So I'm going to return, I can't just return this, that will return a pointer to the current object. I want to reference the current object. So I'll just dereference this. That'll give me the current object, and since he knows it's supposed to return it as reference, he'll convert that to a reference and everything is fine. So there's my boilerplate. So now down inside here, what it says is, okay, you already have a barrel. Forget that barrel and make a new one that looks just like original's barrel. So forget the current one. Delete my current data. After I've done that, make a new one that looks just like the original one. So my used is now going to be set equal to original.used capacity is equal to original.capacity data is going to be equal to new monkey of capacity. That'll make an array just as big as original's array. And now I got to copy all the data from original over to my current data. So another for loop for int. This is going to be used. And then what I want to do here is I want to say, okay, my data sub I gets assigned original dot data sub I. That should just copy everything over. So now we're done with that, and we've got that thing working. Great, go back to barrel.h. I don't see any green squiggles out there, so without any green squiggles, I ought to be able to go out there and just say build solution. You should do a rebuild for me, and I'll look at my error list when it's all done to make sure that I got no errors and no warnings. Whoops. Okay, he's got a problem. He talks about max monkeys and unidentified. Who used max monkeys? Oh, I still had that assert. Oh yeah, I probably better go back and do some stuff here. Insert's going to need extra stuff. Instead of asserting, I'm going to say, hey, if used is equal to, actually I can probably just say greater than or equal. It should never be greater than capacity, but if it should, when it equals capacity, or if for some reason it happened to get greater than capacity, I need to grow current array. Okay, and how do we decide we were going to grow the current array? It said back in the initial documentation we want it to double it. So that means my new capacity is equal to my old capacity times 2. So I can say, hey, it's equal to times equal to. That's a shorthand in C++ to say take the old one and just double it. Now I need to make a new array in a temp variable. So I'll call it monkey, and I'll probably just call it temp. And that is going to be equal to a new array of monkey that is going to be the new capacity in size. Oops, did that wrong. See, I got that squiggle. He doesn't like that. I have to say this temp is a pointer to monkey. Now he's happy. Now I can go out there and I ought to be able to copy the old data over. Another for loop, int, and this is going to go from used, not capacity because I already doubled the size of capacity, just the used stuff. And I'm going to say, okay, my new one, temp sub I, is assigned my old one, data sub I. And when I'm done with all that, I can get rid of my old array, delete the array data. And then now that he's deleted, I want to make that pointer that now points to deleted data point to my temp stuff. Great, and that use stays just as he was. We now grew it, and now we should be good to go. Anything else we need to change? Let's do a quick look. Use should have, it can go as big as we need it to go, so that should work. Remove all, nothing should be changed there. Number of monkeys returned used, print should work. So this should work just fine. Back to build the solution. And yep, I do want to go out here and inside of my insert, I want to put a breakpoint at line 52 just to see if we actually get there. When I go to main and I put that back to 11 like it used to be and I run it, we should on the 11th monkey that's going in break on that grow thing. There we go. I broke. I'm in my capacity is equal. So now my capacity is going to be equal to 4. I'm going to allocate a new temp array that's 4. I'm going to copy the current. Oh, initially it was 2. So yeah, now we're going to go to 4. We'll copy the first 3. 1, 2, 3. So actually, yeah, we started off with 2. When we hit the third one, we went in there. So we'll hit that quite a few times, but that worked like I wanted it to work. So I'm going to go back. Actually, I'll continue. We'll probably hit that same breakpoint again. Now I'm going to remove that breakpoint and just hit continue. Everything should look the same as before, but now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and we only start with a dynamic array of 2. So we should be good at this point. In fact, if we look at B1 and we look at what is his capacity, he's all the way up to 16, of which we've used 9. Sounds good. Use 9, is that correct? Yeah, that's correct because we have deleted 2 of them. We added 11, we deleted 2 with the remove all. We're back, everything looks great. So I'm going to go back and say, yes, I have finished the next milestone. I converted static array to dynamic array. I didn't forget the rule of 3s. I'm going to get all of the original main, add it back in. There were no warnings, no errors. So I'm good at that part. So my next milestone is move all my source files back to Xylab. Okay, let's take one more continue so we're not running this stuff anymore. Continue. Okay, let's go back over to Xylab. What does he want? He gave me that. Okay, it's monkey.cpp. He wants that. Let's grab him the first. I'll grab my monkey.cpp. I'll control A, control C for copy. I'll tab back over, make sure I'm in there, and control V. There's monkey. Next one he wants down is observer. Nope, he already gave us that one. Notice it's a read only, so you can't change it if you wanted to. So then he wants, oh yeah, we're looking for CPP files. That's right. So monkey we did. We just copied that one over. Barrel, got to grab that one. Come over to here to barrel.cpp. Control A, Control C, Alt Tab gets me back. Control V puts it in there. Any more? I think that should be all of them. So at that point there, if I just go out and I just say I'm in develop mode, click on run, it shouldn't need any input. Okay, I got some problems in here. It means I must have forgotten something. He's saying a main unreferenced, undefined reference to monkey monkey. Did I forget to copy monkey over? I might have. I've been known to do such things. Let's look. I've got main. Where's monkey.cpp? No, that looks good. There's monkey.h. Okay, here's my main. Main wants to have barrel.h. There's barrel.h. He's good. And he includes monkey.h. Monkey.h is right there. He should have that little monkey guy, and that should come in from monkey.cpp. Oh, look what I did. Inside of monkey.cpp, I copied monkey.h. That's an H file. So I messed up there. Oh well, I hope you don't think poorly of me. Here's my monkey.cpp. Control A, Control C, Alt Tab, Control A, backspace to get rid of it, Control V to, oops, I did it twice. There we go. Now he's in there. I'll click develop mode again. Let's see if he compiles. Oops, I had to click on run. Hey, look at, I got data that came out that looked pretty good. So when that looks pretty good, looked like it did on our Visual Studio, I'm going to go move over to submit mode and now submit it for grading. And at this point, he's going to go down there and run a bunch of tests for me. Hopefully all mine will work. Looks like I got 6 out of 6. So there's my output compare. Here is my insert and number of monkeys. He's testing to make sure the insert works right and number of monkeys works right. If they don't work, he'll tell you and you'll miss that one. Here's my copy constructor. He's actually testing to make sure that worked. He's testing to make sure that your assignment operator worked. He's testing that on the dynamic array that after inserting 11 monkeys, you went from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 elements in the array so that you're growing your array properly. And the last test, he's testing at the end when monkey goes away. When your barrel goes away, he's testing to make sure that you have deleted properly every monkey that you allocated. Once that's done, I've got my 6 out of 6 and I am done. I don't have to assign anything else to Canvas or anything else like that. The grader will be able to pull that grade out of Zilab and stick it into Canvas. However, this one, by the way, is just an example. So you get 6 points, but you don't get those points. They don't count towards your grade. The one that you have to do is the next one. You've got to do this one here, which is a little more difficult, a little more complex, but it still does have plenty of tests out there. He's going to test your dynamic array. He's going to check to make sure that your realloc works right. He's going to test to make sure that you didn't leak anything. He's got quite a few tests out there. And finally, at the end, he does have an output comparison. So if you work it right, your output should look like this. You might miss a few things here. You might not get the $ quite right, miss some points. So but that should be easy to fix. Once you get all the other points working, that point will work. Well, I hope this has worked well for you. I don't think you should spend more than an hour and a half, maybe 2, if you do it right. If you spend more than 3 hours on this next project, you're doing something wrong, and quick, get up to the help lab, to the tutor lab, or come to my office and we'll get your help. It is due this weekend. I will publish another video just like this one to show you how I did it. It shouldn't take me more than an hour as well. Okay, good luck.